I've not been a fan of this man's. I don't like how he talks to us. I don't like how he talks to the nation. So I have not really had much to say until he started running for president. Then I could say everything I needed to say. My face said everything else.
The studio did not feel like daytime television anymore. The lights were bright, the table was familiar, and the audience expected another heated conversation on The View. But Whoopi Goldberg sat forward with a look that told viewers this was not going to be another passing segment. She was not smiling for the rhythm of the show. She was watching the clips, listening to the words, and preparing to say something that would cut through the noise. The story being discussed was not one isolated Donald Trump moment. It was the pattern around him. The segment framed it as a week of confusion, strange public remarks, foreign policy pressure, and an administration struggling to explain itself, while the country looked for steady leadership. Trump appeared in clips joking, rambling, shifting between subjects, talking about the White House, Iran, Democrats, and his own image. The feeling created by the montage was clear. The room was watching a presidency that looked less like order and more like spectacle.
Then to come after people because of their heritage, which they are born into. It is not a choice. You are who you are.
Right.
And here you're going to make all kind of fun. People said no more. We're tired of that. That's why people are saying, right there, you heard the women say, listen, what we heard at that rally should be enough to shake folks awake, because he's talking about you.
Then Whoopi spoke. She did not shout. She did not need to. She looked into the camera and said the administration could not keep blaming the past anymore. The war, the economy, the confusion, the pressure on families. This was not somebody else's chapter now. This was theirs. The line that landed hardest was simple. This is on y'all. This is yours. The audience went quiet. That sentence changed the discussion because it removed the escape route. For years, Trump and his allies had pushed responsibility backward, blaming Joe Biden, Democrats, the press, or anyone questioning why life felt harder for ordinary people. But Whoopi's point was direct. Power comes with ownership. If you hold office and make the decisions, then the consequences belong to you too.
When he brought up America being a garbage can.
Right. Yeah.
I assume that meant that those of us who live in America were garbage.
Yeah.
And I guess everybody's freaked out now because we're all in the can together.
The panel turned to the administration's messaging on Iran. While officials talked about destruction abroad, Whoopi pointed back home, saying working Americans were dealing with their own form of damage. Families trying to stay above water were sinking again under prices, fear, uncertainty, and political chaos. Older viewers understood the point immediately. They had lived through wars, recessions, and presidents forced to explain difficult choices. They knew when leadership sounded serious, and when it sounded like performance. Then came the phrase that made the room react. The administration, as the conversation framed it, seemed like people scattered through a giant ballroom, each speaking from a different corner without hearing the others. It connected Trump's obsession with grand buildings and gold-plated imagery to the confusion people felt watching his government. A ballroom may look impressive from a distance, but if everyone inside is lost, the decoration means nothing. Joy Behar pushed the point further by comparing the scene to the Three Stooges of the apocalypse. The audience laughed, but the laugh sounded nervous. Beneath the joke sat a serious fear. What happens when government begins to feel like a comedy routine during a moment demanding sober answers? Trump's reaction, as the segment described it, only amplified the criticism. Instead of letting the moment fade, the administration's anger made people replay what Whoopi had actually said. The more the clip spread, the sharper the contrast became. One side framed criticism as disrespect. The other argued that accountability is simply the price of power. That was why the moment mattered. Whoopi Goldberg has spent decades on television. She has seen administrations rise and fall, argued with presidents, celebrities, and co-hosts alike. But what made this moment powerful was not her fame. It was her refusal to treat confusion as normal. She kept returning to one clear point. You wanted power. Now own what power is doing. The conversation shifted again when the clips showed Trump talking about buildings, paint, pools, grass, and renovations, while the country worried about war fears, rising costs, and political tension. Whoopi's earlier warning echoed through the segment. It is not your building. It belongs to the people. The line carried weight because it reminded viewers that the White House is not a private trophy. It is a public trust. For older Americans watching from home, that message cut deep. They remembered when presidents were judged by steadiness in crisis, not by how many applause lines they could create. They remembered that the office was supposed to humble the person holding it, not become another stage for self-praise. That is why Whoopi's criticism landed harder than a normal political rant. She was not just attacking a politician, she was defending a standard. She argued that Americans are allowed to expect clarity from their leaders, truth from their government, and answers stronger than blame and confusion when war, money, healthcare, and democracy are involved. By the end, the most damaging part was not one joke or one insult. It was the pattern. Every time the administration tried to dismiss the criticism, the same line returned stronger. This is yours, not Biden's, not the media's, yours. The The cameras kept rolling, but the argument had already been made. Whoopi did not need to yell over anyone. She simply placed responsibility where responsibility belongs. And in a political world where blame moves fast and truth is often buried under noise, that kind of clarity can feel shocking, because power is not proven by how loudly a leader talks. It is proven by whether he can answer for what happens on his watch. And when Whoopi Goldberg looked into the camera and said, "This is yours," she did more than criticize an administration. She reminded the country that accountability still has a voice, and sometimes one steady voice is enough to make the whole room go silent.